even family. All right. So this is the pre-assessment. This was not graded for the students. Again, here I wanted to test out their affective and cognitive domains. For example, for the first question, how would each of the following affect your health regularly? Again, this isn't something I got like too much into. I didn't get as much into it as I wanted to. My cooperating teacher advised me against it, so away from it. But students would have to here answer how alcohol, marijuana, and e-cigarettes could affect their health if used regularly. For the second question, that was for the first. Second question has to do with the second example of how a number can influence engage in unsafe behavior. So here I was looking for students to understand how family can analyze family, who they are and this it make, and how, say, if a family member consists climbs a ladder without somebody at the bottom spotting them, you could think that this is a normal thing, but really somebody should be at the bottom holding it, and this influence them later in life because it's normal and they could do it and get hurt eventually. So basically looking at those external. So for the third one, provide an example of how peer influence engage in unhealthy or unsafe behaviors. For the fourth, and again, we're looking at factors. The fourth question, we are looking at the third objective. So here we are going to one of your values and how this value can affect health related. So here, this was a really confusing one for the students. They certainly roar throughout the class. What are the 3 I statements? Not a single student knew what the 3 I statements were. So for number 6, I wanted students to how likely they would be to get in a bar with a friend who has been drinking alcohol. And then to build upon that, I wanted students to give one benefit that could occur for you and others if you up instead of allowing the drunk friend to drive. And one negative effect could occur if you and your friends decided to get in the car. I wanted to think about how that impacts others and how important it is. All right, so we're getting to the comic strip now. So for the comic strip, students would be, like I said earlier, having 2 scenarios, which we will get into right now. So for the first scenario, this covers each of the 6 objectives for the first scenario. So to start with the first scenario, I want the students to include one of your values that could keep you or the character that they go into this party with their friend and how you could affect their decision. And now for the second part, I wanted them to create a section where they 3 I statements, avoid going to the only using one of the 3 I statements is supposed to be enough to be assertive and to get your point across. Third section, I wanted the students to illustrate how their family influences could cause them to not want to drink at this party. On this section, students will go to the party and they're going to be surrounded by people drinking. So those external factors. And one of their friends offers them a beer. I want students to illustrate how seeing all these people drinking along with their friend offering them a drink might influence their decision to drink and why they feel that way. Number 5, I want one of your friends has been drinking every day for a week. Illustrate how that could affect their health. For number 6, I want to create a section of how you would feel and why you would feel that way if one of your friends got hurt and had to go to the hospital, and how that would impact you and them in the future. And then lastly, I wanted them to create a section on how their family would feel if you put yourself in that situation and how they would react. All right, so for scenario 2 of the report, the character or themselves decide to not go to the party in the scenario. They do this, number one, by correctly using the 3 I statements and to base these on their values. The number 2, I want students to illustrate how this could affect the characters and not going forward. For number 3, I want students to suggest how they could do something that aligns with their values. For number 4, I wanted students to reach this new idea. Number 5, I wanted students to get a section that how you feel about making this decision and how you are impacted in the future. And then lastly, of how your family would feel. So again, if they knew you made this decision and what they would do and how they affected this decision. Here we have some student examples, nothing flashy, but they were able to get most of what they needed to down, and they were able to do pretty well. This student scored a 25 out of 30. So they were able to meet standard for everything. Unfortunately, for the 3 I statements, they were not able to get meet standard. Instead, they were able to only use 3 of the I statements correctly throughout both scenarios. They're supposed to use 4, but instead they only used 3 correctly. Another example of a student, they 25 out of 30. They're able to meet standard for the I statements, which was pretty rare. One of the easier things to do was announcing what are their values and how that making, which they did not do. And then they almost met standard there. Objective 6, we're only able to complete standard for one of the scenarios, but does not do them both correctly. Again, nothing flash. Mostly poke they had to. So the educational tools that were used throughout the unit, one would be Kahoots. This is a pre-test for the affective domain in that second lesson. I really want to see where students were and how they felt. YouTube was used for educational videos. Google Slides, as we talked about, were used to guide lessons and information. And then Pear Deck helped you gauge where and what they understood. It also was used to grab their focus, because I wouldn't do one for student answer. All right. So for objective 1, predict how behaviors status. Some of the learning experiences that occurred were the slideshows with Pear Deck, the beach ball pass around, and when students listed their top 5 values and the partners. So we did not meet the target for this objective throughout the class. We'll come up with correct responses. I think this didn't show what the students understood. So for the pretest, 43% were able to correct standard in this objective. And for the post, only 44% were able to meet, so 1% increase. For improvement, I think spending more time on the topic will allow students to do their own research, having students do their own research, assessment. I think this could have been beneficial because students would really be able to see how marijuana, e-cigarettes, and alcohol can affect their health status. But again, I was told to kind of go away from this. So. All right, so for the second objective, analyzing peer influences for the learning experience. Again, we had Google Slides, Pear Decks, we think there. Above the influence used, and so was a Kahoot. Here again, the objective was not met. Student discussion in the written work though, and they also did on the pre-assessment. Here we can see that 86% of students scored where they scored standard. For some reason, the red line is not where it should be. 44% students post scored standard. So I think one of the major problems was maybe it was too long. I think it really turned off wanting to do it. I think that students did understand this better than what clearly. I mean, here pre had 18, so to have that much of a drop off, a lot of it had to do with it. All right, so here we have unit objective 3, analyzing influences. So for the learning experiences, we have a slideshow period again. There's the beach around students and the partnered where they discussed their values and factors. Sorry, just how they're influenced who they are. So the objective was not met. The students did show improvement here, which is nice. Again, the red line is not on the 80, and it is before I started. I'll just fix that. Students were able to provide what their values are, why they made decisions during formative in the class discussion. So for improvement, I was thinking I could have an activity with where the poster boards are around the room, and students write a value that affects or deters them from those negative, that would lead them. There we go. There are lines on the right here. So for the fourth objective, analyze how family influences health. So for the learning experiences, again, we had slides with the peer deck. Also influenced this. The Shelby article was a part of it. And the Kahoot. So this objective was not met, as we can see here on the assessment. 71% were able to free. For improvement, I think having, again, the shorter summative assessment would have been, I think, providing a wider to help how many different ways families influence them would have been beneficial too. I think it's something to do. Oops. All right, so for the fifth objective, we want students to review again, slideshow of the pear deck, create their own scenarios, and the two-line discussion. So the objective was not met. Some students were able to understand statements, activities, but this is one I'm a little disappointed with myself in because something I do take pride in. And I thought I understood I statements well, but once I went out to the students were saying and using the I statements, and I was iffy about they were using them right or wrong. Improvement, I think I was spending more category activities practice. When they did get to the two lines, they were very responsive and excited to do that activity. There may have been too much on this. I really felt I was not getting the amount of participants I wanted. All right, so lastly, unit objective 6, feel based on your actions. So for the learning experience, again, we had pear deck, the pear was used, and along with the Kahoot was used for this objective. Success, the objective was not met. During discussion and activities, students were able to show they understood. So again, I think the summative assessment